my understanding is that China dominates global tungsten production. Why does China have such a strong hold? Why is tungsten considered a critical mineral, and where do you see the U.S. demand headed?
Yeah, so I'll answer the last question first. Is the U.S. demand is definitely accelerating, and tungsten is a unique metal in that it actually can have applications in both high tech. It is a large component of electric batteries and electric cars, electric vehicles, and so it's used in atomic clocks. And atomic clocks are important for the military because they support missile guidance systems and high precision GPS. So the more advanced weaponry that the government and the military wish to use is really going to be underpinned by rubidium. Then if you combine that with the use of artificial intelligence in these applications, then really the future demand looks pretty bright. We're very excited because our exposures at both Rees and Tungstonia are at the surface, right? So we're actually able to go and look at the old historic veins that were mined, and we can still encounter them at the surface and take surface samples. And so while the past production was around a point 0.06 to 0.09 tungsten trioxide, we've actually retrieved hand samples and rock samples from the surface that are in excess of 3% tungsten.
Good day. Today we have Brett Marsh, President and CEO of Spartan Metals. Welcome, Brett. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Steve.
You bet. Brett, before we dive in, where can listeners find Spartan Metals online, and where are you trading?
Sure. So we're at SpartanMetals.com, and we are traded on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the ticker symbol W. We're also available on the OTCQB under SPRMF. And for those that may be joining you from Europe, we're also on the Frankfurt Exchange under the symbol J03.
Great. Brett, let's get right into it. How would you define Spartan Metals? Are you a tungsten and rubidium company, a Nevada-focused explorer company, something else? What's your big picture mission?
Yeah, so we are a critical metals exploration company based in Nevada, with a focus on tungsten and other associated critical metals that come along with it.
And your flagship project is Spartan Eagle, is that correct?
It's the Eagle Project in Eastern Nevada. Yes, that's correct.
And so so I believe you're in a Tier 1 jurisdiction, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
it's about as good as it gets in the world for exploration in this part in Nevada and in this part of the state as well. So we're really close to Elko, and we're really close to areas that have had 125 years of mining and exploration history. So it's as good as it gets.
So what advantages have you seen operating in a Tier 1 jurisdiction like Nevada?
Well, the for us to actually get exploration permits, there's a lot of experience within the state and federal areas for us, and it definitely we get a good quick turnaround, and the officials and folks that are there are really there to help, and they kind of help guide us through the system. So we have really seen very quick turnarounds and very good responses at all levels. So it's very nice to do work there.
Brett, I saw that the Eagle Project was one of the highest grade past producing tungsten mines in the U.S. How did those historic grades compare to other operations, and do you see the potential to sustain that production?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So our data comes from the U.S. Geological Survey, and essentially these projects were operated at the World War II, World War One time frame, and so there's some past production data that we have associated with that. At the Eagle Project, we actually have two past producing tungsten mines. We have Tungstonia, which is the largest, and a second, which is called Rees. And so those data that we actually have from the past production, we're able to compare to other projects that the USGS actually has listed, and it puts it in the top as far as grade wise. So as far as continuing there, we're very excited because our exposures at both Rees and Tungstonia are at the surface, right? So we're actually able to go and look at the old historic veins that were mined, and we can still encounter them at the surface and take surface samples. And so while the past production was around a point zero 0.06 to point zero 0.09 tungsten trioxide, we've actually retrieved hand samples and rock samples from the surface that are in excess of 3% tungsten. And we also have data that shows production records from around 1940, where they had regular intersections of over 1% and some even up to 5.3% tungsten trioxide. So we think we've got a pretty good exploration story to dig into here.
Brett, it wasn't too long where I first learned about tungsten and how critical it is. My understanding is that China dominates global tungsten production. Why does China have such a strong hold? Why is tungsten considered a critical mineral, and where do you see the U.S. demand headed?
Yeah, so answer the last question first. Is the U.S. demand is definitely accelerating, and tungsten is a unique metal in that it actually can have applications in both high tech. It is a large component of electric batteries and electric cars, electric vehicles. But it also has, the industrial applications where it's used in heavy industry tooling. So tungsten carbide is probably the most familiar aspect to a lot of folks. But it's a heavily used element within the military for armor plating, armor shielding, and advanced weaponry, bullets, bombs, that kind of thing. So as you can imagine, the Department of Defense and those other entities are very interested in securing a supply chain here within the U.S. So China actually has become pretty dominant in this space, primarily because they have a strong willingness to process materials within the country, right? And so in some respects, they overlook or sidestep some environmental regulations that we might have to adhere to here in North America. And so for that reason, they've been able to come in and produce things at a much lower cost than perhaps we would here. And so that basically has turned the tables on us, for the past 30 or 40 years. And now as it's become critical to our supply chain, we're looking for ways to economically and environmentally sound production here in the United States for both mining and downstream processing.
Brett, what kind of support are you getting from the current administration, and what kind of demand is there from countries in the West, and what's that look like?
It's pretty positive, since, I've been working in the industry for about 25 years, and most recently I was on another critical metal project. So I have some experience and contacts within the Department of Defense and Department of Energy, to the point of where when we put out our corporate video not too long ago, I was, talking about tungsten and rubidium. I got a call from a senior official at the Department of Energy wanting to know more about the project. And so that was extremely positive. And just with recent events around the government shutdown here that we had in the United States, it's been a little bit of a challenge to kind of get in front of some of the folks. But now that we're open at the beginning of the year, we're going to really start to push the project hard within the government sector.
Do you see Spartan being a supplier for mostly U.S. or the West? I mean, what's the demand there?
I mean, my objective or my focus is U.S. first, and then allies, associated allies second.
So I saw that rubidium is another metal you're working with. What makes that important? And Spartan Metals mentions its position to meet U.S. critical metals on onshoring projects. Can you highlight other key minerals as well, and how Spartan is uniquely positioned to help fill the
Yeah,
gaps in the U.S. supply chain?
yeah, so for sure. So rubidium is very unique in the sense that it's really a high tech application. And currently, it's really produced in very low volumes as a low grade byproduct from usually lithium production. And what we find is that rubidium itself actually has some unique properties that allows it to really be sought after for high tech. So it's used in biomedical research. It's used in solar cells to make them more efficient. The biggest application that we've seen thus far moving forward is in the area of high tech communications or next gen communications, telecommunications, if you will, and quantum computers. Right. And so when you think of quantum computers, the importance there is that you need that processing speed for the next generations of artificial intelligence that may be coming by. And so Rubidium is actually being looked at as the foundation for these quantum computer chips, just like silicon was for our current computer chips. So it has the potential to have a really significant growth in the future. It's also has some unique properties that allows it to actually keep time really well, very precisely for that matter. And so it's used in atomic clocks. And atomic clocks are important for the military because they support missile guidance systems and high precision GPS. So the more advanced weaponry that the government and the military wish to use is really going to be underpinned by rubidium. And then if you combine that with the use of artificial intelligence in these applications, then really the future demand looks pretty bright.
Uh,
At Yeah, go ahead.
when you said earlier chips, can you clarify what that means again?
Yeah, it's like the control chips or the memory chips that do all the mathematical calculations within the computers within each one of these pieces of equipment.
Gotcha. I interrupted you earlier. What were you saying?
Well, you had asked about some of the other elements or critical
Yes.
metals that we actually had, and so I was going to cover that as well. And so, in addition to tungsten, rubidium, well, silver was recently added to the critical metal list. We've got a pretty significant quantity of silver at all of our projects at Eagle, but we also have high concentrations of others like arsenic and indium, bismuth, tin, tellurium, and a couple others, bismuth, I think I mentioned already. So we've got a lot of flexibility and a lot of optionality that comes with this. And so we're really kind of going to be working through the process of really understanding how we can access each one of those critical metals and be a supplier to the U.S. in each regard.
Brett, I do want to ask about your website. It said very attractive valuation relative to peers. So I got two questions. One, who are those peers and how does Spartan compare? And two, you talked about all these other minerals and you said you're a tungsten focused. So is the valuation, are you valued with everything or just tungsten and everything else is a kicker? I mean, if you can talk about how you're valued and how do you relate with your peers?
Yeah, so I'll answer the peer question first. When you look in the United States, around a couple, and then even a couple that are outside the U.S. that have similar types of deposits and similar histories. But American Tungsten, Allied Critical Metals, Tungsten Mining, which is actually down in Australia, and Guardian Metals, who also is president in Nevada, are all really comparables or comparisons for us. So why are we attractive? As Spartan being a relatively new company, we actually went public in August, essentially, or launched everything August 5th. So we're still growing, and so we're at the very beginning of our story. Where a couple of those other companies are a little bit more established, and so as many of your viewers may know, to get in early has a lot of upside to it. One of the things that I think makes us a little bit unique, as I mentioned earlier, at our Tungstonia project, we have nice high grade material, and it's at the surface. So several of these other projects have underground and have to go several hundred meters before they actually encounter the mineralization, where we start at the surface. And we believe we have a pretty significant exploration potential, so it can land us not only as one of the highest grade districts within the United States, but it could be one of the largest, right? So positioning ourselves be pretty significant. So in my mind, I think our valuation is tied to tungsten, but we also have a pretty significant quantity of silver that at today's prices will add a pretty significant amount of value as well. So it kind of gives us a really good bit of optionality between two metals that have different applications, but are both critical to the U.S., but add a lot of value to the project.
Brett, if you could walk us through the share structure and who are the key insiders, institutions supporting Spartan?
Yeah, sure. So we've got about 37.2 million shares outstanding right now in a non-diluted state, and we've got 10.5 million warrants that are out in two tranches, totaling about 47.7 shares fully diluted, million shares fully diluted. And so in our warrants, we actually have two sets. We've got about 6.6 million warrants that were issued really as part of the original capital raise to bring our company from essentially a dormant shell position and get it graduated or promoted rather to the Toronto Venture Exchange. So that financing included some warrants. Those were at 7.5 cents, and those expire in April of 2026. And we recently completed a raise at the end of August, a capital raise for $2.25 million at the end of August that included warrants at 45 cents. So our capital raise was at 30, and these warrants today are at 45 cents and expire in March of 2027. So as far as key stakeholders, Ridgeline Minerals is a company that owns about 16% of us at the moment. We acquired the Eagle project from Ridgeline, and so they maintain an equity stake in the company as a result of that transaction. Former board and management, include our former CEO and our director, Burton Egger, who between the two of them own over 30% of the stock. I own 4.9% on a non-diluted basis, or close to 8% on a fully diluted basis. We had really nice participation from some brokerages during our capital raise in August and September that included Research Capital, Ventum, and Alpha North Partners.
Brett, if you can talk a little bit about yourself, the experience. I saw you bring over 25 years of experience. If you can talk a little bit about just kind of the uh, track record you bring, as well as if you can share a high level view of the team and why you built the right group around you.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit more about me I'm educated as a geologist, and I've worked in the industry as a professional geologist, and I'm the QP for the company. And so I've held roles in companies like, or senior leadership roles in companies like Newmont, Phelps Dodge, Freeport, so majors like that in our Sarco, as well as some juniors that have had projects in Brazil, Alaska, and others, primarily in gold and copper is my main background. But I've spent previous 3 years I was running the U.S. operations for an Australian company that had one of the largest lithium deposits within the United States. So I ran the whole show here for them for about 3.5 to 4 years. So I've spent quite a bit of time, in and out of the industry in various roles and regions. And during that time, I met a lot of really good geologists and had the good fortune as we were looking to build the team to bring over Rebecca Ball as a vice president of exploration. And she's one of the best geologists that I've ever worked with. And so she's going to really help us define the geology and what we need to do around these relatively greenfield types of projects and really advance them moving forward.
Brett, what's your plan for moving forward? Can you give us a 50,000-foot view on your plan for and philosophy for growth? And then are there any news and milestones investors should be watching for?
Yeah, so I think at the Eagle project, I think we've got three really excellent projects or mines that we can work on. They're all past producers. So Tungstonia, of course, is where we're going to have the majority of our focus to try to really do our work there as explorationists. And we've recently started in October with a surface exploration program that included just the basics, geological mapping and reconnaissance, soil sampling, rock sampling. We're just starting to see some of those results come in. We noticed at the end of early November, rather, we had a new discovery of a carbonate replacement deposit as a result of some of that activity that has the potential to bring in some additional base metals and other critical metals as we go into the future. And so we're going to basically take all the work that we're doing here So the money that we raised in September is really being applied to advancing the surface geological program that we actually are currently conducting at Tungstonia with the intention of using this data to generate high priority drill targets that will hit the spring. And so, as far as that goes, it's basically the normal exploration steps where we drill, we assess the results, and create a mineral resource estimate when we actually think we have the data that's appropriate to do so. As far as growth, the focus of the company, as we discussed at the beginning of the broadcast, is really going to be around tungsten and other critical metals. And as I say, tungsten is our focus. I mean, that's our W is the chemical symbol for tungsten. And so we chose that very conscientiously when we created the company. And, so that's really going to be the foundation of everything that we do going forward. That being said, I do think it makes a lot of sense to look for a little bit of a diversification so that we have some optionality, so that we're not at the full whim of cycles of various metals. So we'll look to add, additional things like this. It's very nice for us to have the large silver component that we see at the Eagle project. So that gives us a little bit of, as I've said in a couple of other times, some really good options as far as our valuation can go, as we can have both a contribution from silver and from tungsten. And so hopefully, as we go forward, we add more tungsten, and perhaps other elements will come along with it.
Brett, I personally see a need for tungsten for someone who sees the need or is learning about tungsten, wants to invest in tungsten, and isn't sure where to put their money in terms of tungsten. I would love to. I'm curious as to if I were to ask, you got 28% or so board of management, 15% or so from Ridgeline Minerals. If I were to ask them, what makes them most excited about Spartan, what might they say?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's the asset, right? So what we actually have at the Eagle project, as I mentioned, is three past producing mines, two of them past producing for tungsten at high grade, and both have significant exploration potential. So first and foremost, there's just that exploration discovery potential that's near surface and high grade. And then the second would just be, the team and myself, right? We've got a lot of passion behind this, and it's really something that we've invested a lot personally into, and so we're definitely very keen to make sure that we're set up for success and that we execute well.
Brett, where can listeners go to follow Spartan Metals and check out your, if you can give us a ticker, where you're trading and how we can get more information?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're present on the web under SpartanMetals.com. We trade on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the ticker symbol W. We are also on the OTCQB under the symbol SPRMF. And for anyone in Europe, we trade on the Frankfurt Exchange under the symbol J03.
For full disclosure and disclaimer, Brett Marsh or Spartan Metals, neither of them have paid for this interview. I am not currently an investor, although that may change. Please do your own. I'm not giving any investment advice. Please do your own research. And one of the ways you can do that is to reach out to Brett. Check out the Spartan Metals website and reach out if you have any questions. Brett, it's been a pleasure to have you. Everybody stay smart, stay curious, stay disciplined, and talk to people like Brett.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Thanks for your time.